Hey, seventh grade. Today we're going to start looking at some of the Native American resistance that happened to the American settlements that were going on in the American South as the population began to push westward after the War of 1812. So, in a lot of ways, after the War of 1812, the U.S. began to change its approach towards Native Americans. We talked that Washington tried to set a precedent in treating the Native societies as separate nations, tried to have diplomacy, negotiating with them, treating them as uh, another country, much like when they were treating, dealing with Spain or France. Um, but after the Louisiana Purchase and the purchasing of all that territory, freeing up European control of that vast expanse that takes up a third of the nation. Then the Treaty of Ghent, uh, getting basically any European action in North America out, giving us pretty much that entire continent to claim for ourselves. We started to change our approach to the Native Americans from cooperating with them as a fellow nation to one as a group of people whom we wanted to dominate so we could control that land and continue to expand westward. Remember that idea that Americans were entitled to expand westward and that idea of manifest destiny, that it was God's will, is very much prevalent, not just the American people, but its elected leaders. And when no European power is in the way anymore, American expansion starts spreading real fast. And we see that the government's going to start pushing for policies to forcibly make the natives leave. Either say, hey, we're taking this land. If you don't leave now, we're going to kill you. And then if they don't leave, coming in and attacking them. Um, and there is just a disregard of any idea of like any legally binding treaty with the Native Americans. Um, the treaties weren't even worth the paper that they were written on between the U.S. government and the American Indians because they were broken so often by the government side. As you can see here, the white settlers attacking Native American village, killing wantonly, scalping. This was a very common approach of settlers from the east moving west toward the Native Americans. And in return, we're going to see that Native Americans are going to change their approach towards the American settlers. Um, they usually realized when white settlers arrived in an area that they were going to attempt to push them off their land, and some tribes would either try to cooperate and work with the white settlers. Some would, recognize that it was a lost cause and peacefully cede up or give up the land and move west. Many moving to the areas of present-day Oklahoma, which will be known as Indian territory later on in American history, before that's taken from them as well. And then others say, no, you know what? I'd rather fight for my family, for my land, for my way of life. I'd rather live fighting, die fighting, than live oppressed and as a coward. And they fight. And we're going to see that this doesn't go very well. We talked about the Creek War as part of War of 1812, and that is going to get resolved. A group of a creek called the Red Stick Creek attack a place called Fort Mims and kill white settlers. Pretty decent group of them. And Andrew Jackson as basically uses this as a justification for coming in and massacring a great amount of the tribe at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. First, many of their warriors, and then many of their civilians. And the survivors are forced to cede and give up most of present day Alabama and even a third of southern Georgia. And we're going to see that this pattern that Andrew Jackson will continue, where the people will be pushed more and more and more off their land. And you can see by 1820, all this land is secured for the United States and taken from native tribes who lived in those areas. That'll continue in Florida with the Seminole, and it will continue throughout the continent, really, as the U.S. government continues to push its territory westward. But we brought up Andrew Jackson multiple times as a general today and in subsequent lessons. So I want you to make a prediction because our upcoming unit is going to talk about Andrew Jackson a lot. And spoiler, he's going to become the 7th president of the United States eventually. So, knowing what you know about Andrew Jackson so far as a general, what do you think he'll be like as president? Make some predictions. I can't wait to read them, write them down. Have a great one. Bye bye.